minutes. Where's the first project? Number 1, case, minor general plan amendment change. Oh, okay. Huh? Yeah. Gotta get my phone off. Oh, turn off my phone. There he comes. And there's Mr. Hicks, the train man. Okay. All right, we can get this meeting started. And before we can, if anybody would like to speak about an item on or off the agenda, if you could fill out a slip up front and bring it down and hand it to this beautiful young lady on my left, we can get that going. If you have a cell phone, if you would mind turning your cell phone into the silent mode or turn it off. Appreciate that. With that, we'll do our pledge, get started. Welcome home, Chris. Do our pledge.
Let's do it. All right, ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with that, could I get a roll call, please?
Chair Algauer,
Here.
Vice Chair Markarian,
Here.
Commissioner Beck,
Here.
Commissioner Brizzi,
Present.
Commissioner Hicks,
Here.
Commissioner Rekstad,
Here.
and Commissioner Wolf. Here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have any public comments, Ben?
No public comments on items not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we'll go with the consent agenda. We do have some minutes here.
Move to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
One abstain.
Just to confirm, who was the second?
Oh.
And we-
Were you second or third? No.
Okay, we'll go with, let's,
Doesn't matter.
all right, thank you.
Okay, we got one abstained, right? Okay, good. Okay, with that, I guess we can move into our first project. And with that, I'll have to abstain. I do have an interest in that property. So will you, buddy?
All right. We'll get some business done here. All right. Let us call item number 2, case number 21-202, GPA CUPA RC.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman Markarian. Today I bring before you item number 2, case number 21-202, a general plan amendment, CUP and architectural review to change the land use designation of a split zone parcel currently designated as RS20M, 1.43 acres of it, and CG, or general commercial, which is the remaining 4.5 acres, to a single land use designation of general commercial, totaling 5.93 acres, and a conditional use permit with architectural review to permit the construction of a self-storage facility across 2 parcels totaling 6.25 acres, located on the west side of 11th Street and the south side of Yucaipa Boulevard. The project, like I said, is located on a 6.27 acre site, with 0.34 of those acres currently improved with 3 commercial buildings that are to be demolished as a part of this project. It is south of Yucaipa Boulevard and west of 11th Street. And as you can see there in the picture, the parcel is that large one. To the right there, or to the east, there's a portion that is in the residential, as well as the south. There's a portion that is in the residential, and those are both proposed to be rezoned. The surrounding uses are largely commercial and residential. To the north, there are vacant and commercial uses. To the south, there are single-family residential, and to the west, there are more single-family residential with a commercial restaurant. And then to the east, there is a single-family and commercial past that. The general plan amendment is to amend and really align the split zoned parcel with the general plan, or the general plan with that parcel actually. So the 1.43 acres of single residential are proposed to be rezoned to general commercial in order to allow for the development of the entire parcel. Provide that single land use designation of general commercial totaling 5.93 acres. This will allow for the development of the parcel with access and egress as well, and will align, again, the general plan to the parcel boundaries. The conditional use permit is for the demolition of those 3 existing buildings, and then the construction and operation of 1 rental office building of 968 square feet, and 5 storage buildings totaling 146,700 square feet that contain 1,208 climate-controlled self-storage units, as well as open RV storage and parking area. The project will also include about a quarter acre stormwater retention and infiltration basin in that south region. The operational details of this are that it has 2 points of access, of gated access along Yucaipa Boulevard and 11th Street, with the 11th Street acting as exit only. The hours of operation of the rental office are between the hours of 9:30 and 6 o'clock daily. And then as far as the access to the actual units, Monday through Friday, that is open from the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On the weekend, it's open from the hours of 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., and there is no permitted access outside of these hours. For the architectural review of the buildings that are visible from Yucaipa Boulevard, there are enhancements that have been proposed, including stone veneer, parapets, and terracotta roof tile, as well as enhanced landscaping and stone walls along those points to kind of screen the use. You can see some of the elevations up here. For those that are located internally, there is an expectation of lower visibility, which will utilize the standard elevations, which are shown here. These include green roll-up doors with standing seam metal roof, metal paneling along the front of these structures, and split face cinder block along the portions adjacent to neighboring properties. So if you're neighboring property, you would be expecting to see essentially a block wall along that with a max height of 9 feet. As a part of the environmental review, the city processed a mitigative negative declaration, which was prepared in compliance with CEQA guidelines and made available for public comment for 20 days, beginning on July 15th and ending on August 4th. And no comments on that mitigated negative declaration were received. That mitigated negative declaration also determined that all impacts could be mitigated to a less than significant impact. As a part of the project notices were sent to all surrounding property owners within 300 square feet, as well as in the newspaper, and several responses were received. 2 people were actually in favor of the project, citing the need for storage, but there were also comments received from 4 others with concerns over site safety, the fencing, hours of use, landscaping, lighting, construction nuisances, and the impact on property values. It should be noted that 3 of those comments were received at the Planning Commission meeting of September 21st due to availability issues, and so the applicant will have the opportunity to make a rebuttal to those comments. Therefore, it's staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, and if you decide to support the approval of this proposal, recommend to the City Council that they move forward with measures A through G. If you have any questions, hopefully city staff can help, or the applicant is here as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Any questions for the staff at this point?
I just have one question on the portions that are being rezoned. It's just that small parcel that's on 11th Street.
So it is not its own parcel. It's a single parcel that has split zoning.
Okay.
So it's realigning that zoning to include the entire parcel.
So it is a single parcel then?
It is a single parcel.
And just to clarify, I saw two numbers, 5.93 and 6.25. What's the difference?
So I may have misspoke a little bit. The 5.93 is the southern parcel, which includes the portions of residential. As a part of this project, they're going to provide, or they'll do a lot merger to include, do you have that?
Because I see that the currently designated RS20 is 1.43,
Yeah,
and the
so-
general commercial is 4.5, which total up to 5.93. I don't
This-
understand where the 6.25 is coming from.
This top portion is 0.34 acres. It's a second parcel that is included. That is the one that has the 3 commercial buildings on it currently. That will be demolished and included with the
So-
larger site. So I can go back to the,
It's okay, so, but that is the second parcel. I think does that answer your question, Tony? So that small piece on top that has the 3 commercial buildings already is already general commercial.
So is it, you said something about a lot merger?
they will have to process a lot merger as a part of this application.
With that small piece that already has it.
Right. But the other portions that are zoned are part of one parcel.
The
correct?
split zone parcel is one parcel.
And had something else, but I can't remember it.
That
an old
sm-
thing.
The small flag on the south end down here on the bottom, what did you say that was? That's a drain?
That's going to be the retention basin.
Oh. So the bulk of the parcel of the current zoning is what now? The pink portion there?
Yeah, so approximately 4.9 of those acres are general commercial,
It is general commercial now.
which
Okay.
this project would
That's what I
fit
just want,
a general commercial zoning.
thank you.
Any other questions to the staff? All right. With that, let us go to the applicant or representative. Yeah, come on up to the microphone there. Make sure you speak into it so we could hear and your audio could be recorded.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for taking your time this afternoon. My name's Peter Nora. I'm with You Store It Self Storage. And we are the applicant on this project. You Store It, we currently have 8 other properties. We're a family-run storage company out of San Diego. Our nearest property is actually in Redlands. We've been looking to get into Yucaipa for a few years for a good location to build another storage facility, as we saw a lot of demand for storage in Yucaipa. And, you know, we love Yucaipa. We think it has great parks. It's a great city. Beautiful vistas. You know, sometimes you want to build where you want to live. And we found this parcel about 15 months ago. And so that's why we're here today, to talk about what we're looking to do with this piece of land. And, you know, I did hear the last week's agenda, or 2 weeks ago. I listened to the agenda, and I will be addressing a few of the items that some of the residents brought up on how we plan to ameliorate some of those items. But before I get into that, I just sort of wanted to cover really quickly a little bit about storage. As you know, there's not a ton of storage facilities in Yucaipa, but maybe I could just give everybody a quick rundown on sort of what drives our product. You know, there's the 4 Ds of storage. There's death, there's divorce, there's dislocation, and there's disaster. Those are the 4 reasons that our product oftentimes exists. Death, obviously, was very prevalent during COVID, unfortunately. Divorce is a common occurrence, also unfortunate. Dislocation, people are running across the country for new jobs, maybe going to college. Mom and dad are moving their things out of their house. We provide a service for them to put their belongings. And then disaster, which is always a horrible item, but sometimes we're that last resort. If there's a fire, if there's an earthquake, where do they go? And they come to us. We're the storage facilities. They lose maybe a kitchen, or maybe they lose their office, or there's a flood on their first floor. We provide that service to them so that they could put their things in a safe, secure place while maybe they're rebuilding their house. So right now there's a lot of wait lists on storage facilities all the way into Redlands to a few properties off of Yucaipa Boulevard. So those are our 4 driving factors of demand. And then our primary decision maker and our customer that comes into a storage facility is female, 70%. I've been doing this since I've been 15 years old. 70% of our decision makers are female, and they're the ones making decision on whether or not to rent with us. And so how do we get them to convert and rent a unit with us? Well, we make sure we have clean, safe, secure properties. Our managers stand up, they tuck in their shirts, they greet the individual when they come in the door. Today could be the most stressful day of their lives, making 150 decisions that day rather than 100. And so we're gonna go show them the unit. We're gonna make sure that the hallways are secure, that the lighting's censored. It's a Class A property. We have PTI keypad access at the gate and then again at the door, so we can monitor exactly when a person gets on the property and when they get into the building on the property, and then when they vacate. And then the lighting's monitored. We have cameras, security cameras, 2 terabytes of data for every 2,000 square feet of building area. And then we do what a little bit different than most storage facilities do. What we do is we do a full lockdown at 6 o'clock p.m. So we offer early morning, but at 6 p.m., property's locked down. There's no other storage customers coming in, and it's our manager's job to walk the entire premises to make sure everybody's off, the things are put away, or they may need to stay a little bit longer, but they don't get to leave until the last customer's left that day. So that property's not really ever unmanned. There's somebody there, there's somebody watching it, it's comfortable, it's well lit, and so it's a safe, secure place because we're providing that service to what I've sort of described now as our customer base. A few items that were brought up last week or 2 weeks ago was the noise and the dust, which I've read through conditions of approval. Right now, we don't have a photo of the site. It's a dirt lot. I would argue to say that's a lot more dust than what we're going to create, but somebody's eventually going to have to develop it, and our conditions of approval call out for sheathing around our construction fencing, and we have to water down the site. But we're not moving vast quantities of dirt that it should take too long. And then once the site is completed, it's going to be concrete, and 27% of the site has landscape area. So it's going to look a lot better than what it is now as a dirt site. So noise and dust, I think, will be addressed in the conditions of approval. We had an individual that requested about the scenic view, referring to building B. That's that middle building. It's just north of the apartment complex. And we're 54 feet off of the PL, that apartment complex property line. And right there, yeah. And that building height is 10 feet. The city requirement was 10. And so we're 5 times the city requirement there. And then the house to the right, north to 11th, Miss Parker's house, we're 100 feet off of her PL, and we have a 6-foot-high CMU block wall with landscaping. It's 10 times the city required. Well, we're looking to we're going to be selling off that residential portion, but the distance is, I'd say, is ameliorated. It's pretty significant under most circumstances and how far we're setting back from the neighbors to try to accommodate some of those items. But I wouldn't say any views are going to be restricted 10 feet. A house is larger. Our hours of operation, I believe I covered earlier, is specifically how we run our stores. We're not a national brand, we're family run. We invest our money into it, and we watch these very carefully, and we run a tight show. So we're closed down at 6 o'clock. So any other commercial business, And it runs to about standard working hours. We're not asking for anything out of the ordinary. I would say it's 6 o'clock closing. And then I mentioned briefly security as well. The one last item I think I could touch on is, you know, I know we're asking for a general plan amendment. It is a minor general plan amendment, and it's sort of a unique circumstance. The property is one parcel that has a split zone in it, and it was originally just to get a driveway. It's a point of egress for the fire department, and then we got a second egress, but still to that extent, any developer would be standing here before you requesting the same item for a minor general plan amendment to develop this site, because it has that split zoning for one parcel. So we've added a 6-foot-high CMU block wall along the north end of the retail, north end of the property along the retail section, a 6-foot-high CMU block wall along 11th Avenue to provide shelter from the residents and then from the major arterial off of Yucaipa Boulevard. So specifically, the one point of visibility you get of this project is off of our leasing office, which is nice as stone veneer. Architecturally, it enhances the boulevard, and the whole storage facility is set off. And then we have CMU block walls, I believe, providing enough buffer to put the storage facility behind it. And that's what I have to say about this project. You know, I think that the storage facilities provide an essential service for the residents of any community that they're in. And they're always the service is always provided in one of the more stressful times of somebody's life, so we try to make that a little bit easier. So if you have any questions for me or our project, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Knorr. Commissioners, any questions to the applicant, representative?
I have just a couple. You have 1,208 units?
Correct.
Based on that, how many trips per day do you think that would generate? Or you have a number of facilities, so you probably have a real good
Average,
idea.
if I were to ask a traffic engineer, they would say it's 1.5 per 1,000 square feet
Yeah.
of building, average daily traffic counts. It's a little bit higher at the beginning when you fill up,
Sure,
and then once you're full, it drops pretty significantly.
right.
And so they calculate it off of your busiest hours. I'm not a traffic engineer. I could just tell you what they would put in a report because I just did one recently.
Yeah.
and
But
that-
you're monitoring gates, so per 100 units, do you have an idea of how many on a mature
On a
facility?
mature site, you get 15 to 22 new people coming in, maybe dropping something off, leaving
Right, per day?
per day.
Okay,
Yeah.
on an average.
Yeah, maybe, you know, you could have 3 to 5 people renting that would be new, and then you're somewhere in that high
Right.
teen for a
Because for
property
them-
of this size, coming in to maybe drop off a lamp or,
Yeah, because I know some people in town have been, I have one relative who's been trying to get a storage facility for 9 months.
we
And,
have, and sorry,
So I would anticipate you're gonna fill up pretty quickly, and so once you're full, that initial traffic, then after that, you're 20 to 25 or even 30 trips per day on what, how many total acres?
about 5.9,
5.9?
or 6.25?
6.25,
Sorry,
if you
6.25.
consider that other
Yeah.
small parcel.
The property we own in Redlands,
Yeah.
off of Colton Avenue, we actually drop in zip codes of where our customers are
Yeah.
coming from. Actually, a handful of customers actually coming from all the way up to, you know, 10th, 11th, 12th, like
Yeah.
in Yucaipa, and they're driving 7 miles or off of Colton Avenue all the way down there. That's sort of how we were like, wow, we have a customer base coming from so far. What's,
And, well, and just looking at, your RV storage is all towards the north end,
that's correct.
right? And so I'm guessing that less than 50%, based on where that building sets out, less than 50% of your exit's gonna be through 11th Street. Of your total customers per day, they're gonna exit the property on 11th Street instead of Yucaipa Boulevard.
I would imagine that they're gonna leave off
Even if it
11th.
was half-half, you know, you're looking at, 14 or 15 cars per day exiting on 11th Street.
Which is nothing.
compared to apartment complex, you know, the total.
Well, the amount of cars that are gonna be going down 12th Street
Yeah.
as soon as the hospital's in there and all that stuff.
Right. And then your block wall, pretty much all the way around the perimeter, well, the buildings, those aren't even zero setback on the buildings on the south side?
They're 10-foot setbacks.
10 foot
And
set-
the block wall is actually the building. So it's a CMU block wall, which is the backside of our building, but it's also a fence. It works as two purposes. And then where I didn't have it, I'm building the CMU block wall.
So the property line has no block wall and just 10 foot off property line, you have the back of the building, which is
That's correct.
masonry rear of the building, right?
That's correct.
And it's 9 feet?
It's 9 feet right now, yeah.
So 9 feet on the perimeter and 10 foot on the interior structures?
The lights are on the buildings.
Yeah.
We'll ask the question.
We'll have public
let's not speak from the audience and maintain decorum. So we'll get to the public
I could
comment portion.
I could comment on the lights. The lights are censored and they're called wall packs. They sit on the building and they are also in the hallways, and those are also on sensors. So they're movement or motion sensors. So when we close the property down, there really shouldn't be any lights unless somebody's there, in which case there would be an alarm that had gone off.
Nice.
So there are no wall packs on the backs of the buildings?
No, currently no.
How ironclad are your operating hours as far as ending at 6 PM? Is that, you start that way and then maybe go till 8 or 10 down the road? Or is that something that is pretty much cast in? That's an issue that I think a lot of the folks are concerned about, having people coming and going at midnight.
Yes, I can comment on that. There was a period in time, and there are still other self-storage facilities that do operate until 8 or 10 o'clock. Our company does not do that. I could write that down in the conditions of approval on any California properties. There's issues, unfortunately to say it, but with homeless. And there's issues with, who's storing something at 9:30 at night that you couldn't have stored during the business hours. We haven't lost any business from being a little bit more restrictive, and I could say that's an ironclad 6 o'clock. They might be there until 6:30 or 6:45 because they're
Yeah, getting people out.
getting people out, but they don't
Right, but
leave.
they're not receiving more people and coming and going. So that, typically, that is or can be a condition for approval, the 6 PM deadline? Is that what you said?
I'm certainly comfortable with it. Every property we have in California right now is a 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So no entry is allowed past 6 PM.
Past 6
Right.
o'clock.
All right, so your gates are not code operated that someone can come in anytime they want?
They are key codes, so everybody has their unique code, and you can lock those gates, even if they type in their code, but they can't get in after-hour access.
Perfect.
And if I may add, it can be added as a condition of approval. However, the project plans also do call out the 6 PM cutoff. And so as part of the approval kind of entity for the project, those hours of operation are memorialized on the project plans as well. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The little piece of property on the very south, that's the .2 acre retention basin, is that correct? It's in the green.
That's correct.
Is that, well, first of all, it's scooped out, right, so it can retain water?
That's correct, yeah. It's the 100-year
And
flood.
is it landscaped or just left wild or?
No, there's landscaping all around it, and there's actually landscaping, actually, I guess that's not a very good highlight. There's actually landscaping all around the building. There's a little gap in between those two buildings, and that's our access point to maintain all the landscaping on the south end of the property line. But yes, there is landscaping and trees in that, on the edges of the bioretention.
I'm also curious about this industry. Are you acquainted with the term highest and best use?
Yes.
Is a storage facility like this considered a highest and best use?
Well, I am.
I mean, for right now. but
I would say yes all day long. I mean, there's huge demand for self-storage right now. I mean, these are the unfortunate items in our industry though, but there's been a lot of deaths, you know, there's more and more senior living homes, right? There's still divorce occurring and people are changing jobs all the time. We're a transitional business and right now there's wait lists all over the place because people have pent up demand for this product. Right now, I could look at Yucaipa as a whole, and if I ran a market study, which I did a few days ago, like about 250, 280,000 square feet of demand. So maybe I'm providing half of that.
okay, and I'm not disparaging storage units. Down the road, this is a permanent approval. It's a perpetual approval that you're getting here. It can be a storage facility on into the future ad infinitum, as far as I know. There may be a change at some point where it becomes a non-conforming use, but as long as it's held, it can continue to be a storage facility. What I'm curious on is in this industry, if there's a consideration of a usable life for these, because at some point the property may be more valuable for something else. And am I completely off base on that, or is that a consideration at all? That we're not looking at a use that is likely to be here 50 years from now?
I haven't seen any storage facilities get torn down unless they were structurally unsound. There was one in LA that got bought by, Disney for a studio, which they have unlimited funds, but I wouldn't say that I could ever see that being torn down for a different use. That would make more sense.
You can't see that personally, or you could see that?
I personally could not see that. And to that extent, this piece of land is sitting off a major arterial, which is Yucaipa Boulevard, but not on it. So I would say property that has higher and better use is the boulevard, and we're set back. So somebody that's gonna want that hotel or some bigger complex, I would argue to say they probably want that frontage, not what's set back from the major arterial. But I would not tear down a storage facility. I'm not aware of anybody tearing down storage facilities. I see this use being around for a very long time.
Well, you would agree, though, if the property became more valuable for something else, a prudent property owner would tear it down in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would say it's unlikely, but yeah, it could occur, yeah. I mean, if somebody sees a piece of dirt that they say, yeah, it doesn't make sense anymore, like people tear down office buildings right now, but I would say it's unlikely.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment, Chris.
Sure.
Do you have questions, though?
I have a few.
I just
But
have a
go
comment,
ahead.
so you can make your questions first.
Okay.
Kind of
So I just wanted to know a little more about you store it. If you can tell me, you said it's a family-owned, San Diego-based. How many properties do you guys have?
We have 22.
And all in Southern California?
8 in Southern California, 12 in Illinois. You might hear my soft accent. 2 in Indiana. We reside in San Diego, my entire family. We moved here to California in 2007, and we've been building and operating storage facilities here, but we just didn't sell our properties that we had built in the prior years. We've been building storage facilities since 1987 with my father. I joined the business 15 years ago in various roles. And he was on the president of the National Self-Storage Association. He was a board member for a while. I was the president of the Illinois Self-Storage Association for 2 years. My term just expired about 10 months ago.
How long has the Redlands property been there?
Since 2019. It's off of Colton Avenue and right next to Shakey's Pizza. Those hours of operation are consistent with what I'm saying as well. You could look at it during this meeting or after.
Any issues operating the Redlands facility?
No, We run a really tight ship.
Okay.
We're really hands-on, and that's how we manage our properties. There are investments, and we watch them closely.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
All right. I want to thank you for being here today. Clearly, you've taken somewhat of a defensive stance. I think that may be because of some of the questions that have been asked. I appreciate you listening to what was said 2 weeks ago. You've addressed each one of those things, from safety, fencing, hours of use, landscaping, lighting, construction impacts. You talked about everything, and I appreciate you being prepared. I, for one, love the project. I think it's a great-looking project, and like I said, I just want to thank you for taking the time to be here and do your due diligence.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think you did a great job as well, Peter, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We will now move to, if there's no other questions or comments, we'll now move to public comments. So I don't know if Mr. Algauer, the chairman, said this or not, but if you'd like to speak, please fill out a form. Hand it over to the staff down here. If you have one, we're gonna call your name. You're gonna come up to this microphone. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and we will take your comments. And after you sit down, we will discuss them. So, sir, have you filled out a form? Okay. All right. If you filled out a form, your turn is coming up. All right. Public comments.
Not yet. Wait until they call your name.
Yeah. No reason. You seem excited. We should probably have him come up first. But let's go ahead and call the public comments.
First is Tiffany Parker.
Tiffany Parker, come on up. Commissioner Wolf, can you maintain time for me? Ma'am, please speak into the microphone, state your name and your address, and go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Tiffany Parker. My address is 12170 11th Street. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission and fellow residents of the city of Yucaipa. I am a wife and mother of 4 young children. My family and I have lived in our residence on 11th Street for 10 years. Our home is located on the east side of the proposed storage facility next to the areas of land they are looking to change from residential zoning to general commercial zoning. As I stated in my email to Christian Farmer on February 8th, as well as in subsequent emails, my husband and I have a number of concerns regarding this project, some of which were addressed tonight. Safety and security, hours of use without physical on-site monitoring, wrought iron and brick wall fencing, lighting, construction concerns, decreasing property value, are just to name a few. I'd like to take a moment to address a few of these areas of concern, one being the proposed entrance and exit located on Yucaipa Boulevard just before 11th Street and the additional exit on 11th Street. There is no signal light at the intersection of 11th and Yucaipa Boulevard, which will cause many to either attempt to make a U-turn or for them to continue down 11th Street. 11th Street was not designed for this type of traffic, nor has the city proven to be able to maintain it properly. Prior to 2 weeks ago, our street has been in disrepair for at least the last 2 years, with sinkholes that were covered up with metal plates. Regardless of numerous attempts to get the city to fix this, it was not until 2 weeks ago that the street was finally fixed, which I find very interesting given the timing of this meeting. We also have little to no street lighting, no sidewalks to allow for residents to safely walk down the street, especially with potential increased traffic and construction. With the lack of lighting, sidewalks, traffic signals, as well as the additional traffic during drop-off and pickup times at the Yucaipa High School, there's a potential of endangering the lives of students, parents, and the rest of Yucaipa residents. Second, property value. By changing the zoning of the residential to general commercial, it would greatly affect the property value of my home. My home, being located next to the exit on 11th Street, will move from a quiet location with beautiful views of the mountains and Crofton Hills to one of industrial buildings and increased traffic and noise. This change will greatly affect our ability to sell our home in the future and get full market value. Additionally, in the documents provided to you, signed by Mr. Benjamin Matlock, the Planning Commissioner, it states, and I quote, "Their property will be further mitigated by a buffer residential parcel that is located between their property and the project." The property they are referring to is my property, 12170 11th Street. I would like it noted that I have in writing from Mr. Peter Nora, as well as he said it tonight, that our new landscaping will be set back close to 90 to 100 feet from your property lines. As I mentioned, the L-shaped parcel will be undeveloped as we are going to be listing it for sale. I would like this noted because my property is an abutting property. According to Section C3 of the Conditional Use Permit Review, it states, the proposed use will not have a substantial, adverse effects on abutting property. Since Capital Funds is planning...
If you can please finish up. Your time is up, but I'll allow you 5, 10
I have
seconds.
one paragraph left.
Go ahead.
Can I read that? Okay.
Sure.
Since they're planning on placing this L-shaped parcel up for sale, it's not accurate to say that our concerns have been mitigated and that it has great potential for substantial adverse effects. Furthermore, if capital funding is not planning on any sort of landscaping on this parcel of land, there will be no deterrent from people dumping items when they remove from the storage facility, as well as trespassing. Thank you for your time and your consideration in this matter, because as a mother of 4 young children, their safety and well-being is the top concern for both my husband and I hope it is for you as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Parker. And you did a great job rushing through it, so sorry, I didn't mean to push you, but 3-minute limit time, so. Next speaker.
Mr. Chairman, can we have staff identify her parcel with the laser?
So this is the proposed storage facilities. That is Tiffanys Parcel.
All right, thank you.
And then I think as a part of the sale of this parcel, U-Storage is also purchasing this one, but they're not proposing any
So
development.
the L shape around her house is being purchased?
I think they're purchasing it as a part of the larger land purchase, but they're not proposing any development.
They're not
on or near
developing,
it.
yeah, that's the 100-foot buffer? Got it, okay. And if they do sell it, what can be constructed on there once we change it to general commercial?
That is not being changed to general commercial. They are not proposing any development there. It is just, I think, a part
So
of the
that is
sale.
still an RM20?
That's correct.
It will be, RSO. Someone could develop with a single-family uses as permitted by the city's development code.
What is that size of that piece?
About 20,000.
20,000 square feet? Okay, so about half an acre? All right, thank you. All right, next speaker, please.
Next, we have Patricia Sovnoso.
All right, come on up to the speaker and to the microphone and oppose nice and loud and clear, and then,
Yeah, as a note, because we do record the meetings, we need them to be
Yeah,
on the microphone
so
so
they're-
that way it gets picked
they're
up.
on the
Otherwise, we
record. You
can't hear.
can go back and hear them 5, 10 years from today and say, hey, I spoke my piece. So here you
Okay.
are. Your name and your address,
My name
please.
is Patricia Sornoso. My address is 13060 2nd Street in Yucaipa, and I oppose this. The matter before you.
Okay, that's
the
awesome.
sake of-
And you live on
Yeah.
2nd Street?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Short and sweet. Next speaker, please.
We have Margaret Morris.
Margaret Morris. Come on up, ma'am. Same drill there. Just speak into the microphone with your name and your address first. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Margaret Janelle Morris. My husband and I own the 5-unit apartment complex at 12194 11th Street. You can send mail to us at that address to Apartment E. We strongly object to the proposed zoning change, which would allow U-Store to be stuffed into what we consider a residential neighborhood. We believe this zoning change will create unsafe conditions and devalue the residential properties in that neighborhood. An additional concern is we've heard of some criminal activity happening in U-Store in storage places, such as in Colorado Springs, where some criminal activity is suspected when they found a dead body in one of the units, and then some very desperate homeless people renting a storage unit and trying to live in it. So that's a concern. But we feel that this proposed zoning change and U-Store facility will turn a large 6.25 acres of land into a storage facility that's being called a mini warehouse. I have to say that 6.25 acres does not sound very mini to me. This proposed storage facility will potentially increase traffic on both 10th and 11th Streets. Individuals who live on the east side of Yucaipa Boulevard would logically try to avoid the boulevard and would come down 10th Street and make a right turn onto Yucaipa Boulevard and then another right into the storage facility. When they leave, if they have any common sense at all, they'll make a right turn onto the boulevard and another right turn onto 11th Street to leave the area. I know I would if I were them. This will potentially put a lot more traffic, even if it's 12, 14, 15 cars a day, on these streets that are not designed for that kind of traffic. As one of your former speakers mentioned, there are no sidewalks, there's no lighting. So I think it's a very, very serious safety concern for the residences on both of those streets. Well, as another former speaker mentioned, putting traffic on these streets will cause more wear and tear. And as she mentioned, that it took 2.5 years just to fix 2 sinkholes that were covered with metal plates.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate it. All right. And just for the record, you're the wife of Mr. Gary Morris, whose letter I read here? All right. Thank you so much. All right. Next speaker,
Next, we have Boo Rivera.
Ms. Rivera.
Good evening. My name is Boo Rivera. I live at 902 Church Street in Redlands. I'm objecting to the proposal on the basis of common sense. The Parker's residence, which would have an L shape around it of the storage unit, no one in their right mind would purchase that property. I don't care how beautifully they build the units. I can't imagine anyone wanting to live with their back against a storage unit. Even though we've been reassured that it's going to stay lovely, I'm happy to pass around these photographs of the Redlands location where the landscaping pretty much looks like crap. So I do not buy into the story that it will be landscaped and maintained attractively. Those are just some of the eminent and obvious long-term problems. You had mentioned if the facility stays there a long time, it might look great for the first year. But can you guarantee that it's going to look great for the life of the building? And I don't think anybody can at this point. It's good if the lights are going to go off at night, because if they don't, then the Parkers and many other residents in the area will have light shining through their bedroom windows all night. And in the summertime, if you want to have your windows open, you don't want to have shades down because you're blocking the ventilation. So it would be really impractical. And also the issue of crime, do any Google search, you know that storage unit facilities do attract people coming in trying to break into the storage facility. I have several family members that use storage facilities in other communities, and they have experienced people breaking in and stealing their stuff. So I know this to be true from a personal standpoint, that it does happen. Anyway, if you'd like to look at these photographs up close, we do have them, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. It's a treat. We got a Redlands resident at our Yucaipa Planning Commission meeting today. All right, next speaker.
Next, we have Fred Johnson.
Fred Johnson, come on up, sir. There you go. I promised you your turn would come up. Take your time. Take your time, Mr. Johnson. All right, speaking to the microphone with your name and address.
Thank you. My name's Fred Johnson. I live at 32938 Avenue D. I am impressed by what this fellow has proposed. I believe this storage unit is just perfect for that area there. And the way he proposes it, there's no getting around it. It's the way to go. That's all I have to say.
Oh, well, thank you so much. All right. All right. Next speaker,
Next, we have Candace Holler.
Candace Holler, come on up.
My name is Candace Heller. My address is 12554 16th Street. I am for the units because I had lost my house. I have 3 kids. I had to move my stuff into storage and was not able to find anywhere to go. I had to put myself on a waiting list, take whatever I thought was valuable to me and my family. I had equipment for me as an amputee. I get pressure sores on my legs. I had wheelchairs. My daughter is autistic. And I was only able to take so much with me and shove it into my car. And I thought we were only going to have a couple months, or not even months, maybe a few weeks, before I could get my stuff into storage. And it took almost a year. So I am for it. When I finally got into a storage, I was very happy. All my stuff stayed nice. I was able to go back and get what I needed, and I didn't have any issues with the Alpine storage where my stuff was at. So for people that really desperately need a storage, I'm here to advocate for them because it was not easy.
Thank you, Candace. Where is Alpine Storage? Where do you store your stuff? Here?
It's right behind 16th Street.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next speaker,
Next, we have Tara Goals.
Tara. Hello, please, your full name and address.
Tara Gullis, 12554 16th Street,
What is
Yucaipa,
your-
California.
I'm sorry, what is your last name?
Gullis.
Gullis.
I'm for the storage unit too, because as he said, I went through a divorce and I had to go, I live in Yucaipa, but I had to go to Redlands to store all my incidents. And, like the one thing I think, the security of a storage unit is the security of a storage unit. We have family that live right there. And instead of maybe townhomes, and I think you were trying to see what the opportunity cost was for if something more valuable could be there. But I have to go all the way to Redlands. I'm also medically handicapped and I have to store all my stuff down the street. I know Yucaipa as a community have had multiple wildfires throughout and nobody I know could get storage. If I had to choose anything for that property, it would be a storage unit because townhomes would just bring way more people in and out past 6 p.m. But a maintained facility and how they do it, I'm totally for it because that's going to be monitored constantly. There's going to be walls all the way around it. And like I said, there's just no availability in Yucaipa. I have to go to Redlands for all my things. So, but as far as opportunity costs, that would be hard to dictate without a case study for him because you could put something popular in there and then you know in Yucaipa, as soon as you put something in there, it's bouncing for 3 months, like a coffee shop, as we saw, or Chick-fil-A, or now Chipotle, that whole place, no matter what. But if you want to talk about moving trucks as well, you'll get a lot of moving trucks at a storage facility, but same thing for townhomes. It's going to always be in and out, and that brings more people. And safety-wise, we already know a storage unit is safer compared to having a small unit of apartments or townhomes. So I'm completely for it. I really like the argument. So thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next speaker.
Next, we have William Reagan.
William, come on up. Full name and address, sir.
William Reagan. I live on 12554 16th Street in Yucaipa, but I also have family property that is right next to the catch basin. And we've had people come through that back field because it's an open field right now. Cars have been dumped back there. It's more security and safety for our property right there if it has a storage facility with 24-hour surveillance. So I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next speaker.
Next is Ronnie Gustafson.
Good.
My name's
How are you?
Ronald Gustafson, 32968 Avenue D. My property runs along the outside of the retention basin, the long side. And my biggest concern would be, is water gonna stand in there? So I don't wanna see it become a mosquito breeding ground or any of the trash or the runoff like motor oils, tranny fluid, antifreeze come down and go into there and contaminate mine and my neighbor's property right next door. I mean, I'm all for the storage unit, but I just want to make sure that retention basin doesn't become a trash collection and it's tested at times to make sure that it's not hazardous in there for any of the runoff, because that's a lot of blacktop. You know what I mean? A lot of runoff's going to go into that retention basin, and I don't want to see water sitting in it. But it's, I think it'd be a lot better with the storage unit there than open field, because I have people that like to jump the fence from the boulevard, come into my property in the middle of the night and try and cut through to Avenue D, and I can't get the sheriffs to do nothing. So, I mean, I think a storage unit's a great idea there. So,
All right.
okay?
Thank you. The lesser of two evil argument there. Thank you. All right, next speaker.
That's all the speakers.
All right. So thank you for all the speakers. And Mr. Morris, I did read your letter. And I read Jonathan Yegi's letter and Christine Yegi's letter as well. And I reviewed in the prior minutes of the meeting I did not attend the comments that were made. So all of your comments are very valuable to our decision making. So we are in great appreciation for all of you being here and participating. With that being said, let's go around the commissioners. Any comments about what we heard?
Yeah, the applicant can provide a rebuttal to the public comments too.
Okay. Mr. Applicant, you want to come up and rebut any of the comments made by the public comment section? You don't have to if you don't want to.
That's more of a, I have a question for you.
Oh, all right. Well, come on up. Then you do have to. Go ahead.
A couple of things that came up were the lighting at the entrance. We talked about all the lighting, and the way you described it was the lighting was essentially going to be internal. So lighting is going to face the interior of the property, not the exterior of the property. Can you address that a little bit more?
Sure.
And then the entrance as well.
At the entrance as well?
Yeah.
Well, our entrance is planned to be off of Yucaipa Boulevard.
The lighting of the entrance.
The lighting?
Yeah, I'm just specifically talking about lighting issues. They don't want the lights coming into their living rooms at, at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, along 11th, that's actually just an egress. It's just an exit for us.
Okay.
But if you're talking about next to the residences, yeah, so there are wall packs that are going to be facing the interior sides of the property. We haven't done a full photometric. Once again, if to accommodate everybody, I'm certainly okay with taking out any wall packs on that side of the building, on the east end of the building, along 11th Avenue, to make sure that there's no lights going into their houses. But they're motion censored. So even if they were sitting there, they would shut off. Sure, if somebody ran through the property, yeah, it would go on. But then we'd also have a camera and some people notified that somebody's running through the property.
Okay. And then, thank you. And then one of the other questions that came up was on talking about customers, theft issues.
I like the dead body part.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to prevent a dead body in there?
That was a different use store. We don't own any property in Colorado. It's not really a proprietary name.
And it's just in general speaking, if you have, let's say, what's becoming more of a norm in storage facilities is transients trying to, just like they are everywhere else, transients trying to occupy or break into, trespass, obtain a unit that they can live out of. Is there going to be any protocols in place for you guys to identify anything like that? And if you do identify that, what would your policy be to ensure that those people are not welcome?
Right, so we actually changed our policy because it used to have been a 10 till 10 o'clock access. And that's why all of our properties in Southern California are actually 6 p.m. access. They do a full walkthrough. Most of those issues were actually occurring with transients or individuals that were doing things that they shouldn't have been doing, were happening between that, 6:30 and 10 o'clock at night when the office had closed, everybody had left the property. They're like, hey, I'm in this big property, I'm alone. And so we said, well, we'll just close the property. And that's what we started doing, and that is actually one of the biggest mitigating measures that we have done that's different than other storage facilities. The other times during the day, we're on the property. There's a few hours in the morning for businesses. That's sort of how we look at it. The 6 a.m. is somebody that's maybe running a moving company. They got to get in the car at 7, and they're not there until 9:30. But most people aren't committing crime and 6 to 9 in the morning.
Right. And then the last question I have is the retention basin got brought up, and I don't know if we really discussed that. You heard what the gentleman said?
I heard.
Can you address some of his concerns?
Well, we don't.
The runoff and oils and it being a garbage collection?
I sure hope it won't be a garbage collection either. There are only oils that I could ever see. People aren't allowed to be like repairing auto parts or anything, and it's not what this property's built for. You don't have the clear heights. It's just not, it doesn't happen in our business. They'll go to an auto repair shop or something like that. So chassis and engine oil is a little bit less likely. Maybe you have a little bit from a car driving, just like a normal road would, which is a pretty de minimis, is a pretty de minimis amount. But standard, to my knowledge, storm basins are cleaned out every 3 to 5 years.
If I could
All right,
also
please,
help
if
address that.
I could have the audience not make any comments. If you wanted to make a comment, your public comment, I would still entertain you filling out a form, and I'll probably even give you a chance to say something within 3 minutes, but.
To my knowledge, I'm not a civil engineer, but to my knowledge, all of the properties that we have designed in the last 5 years, that water that goes into the bioretentions is cleaner than from the sky. Because it hits the roof, it's clarified, it goes into the storm water. And, but once again, I'm not a civil engineer. They're not designed with all the water quality, the WQMPs and all those reviews that they have to go through to be providing anything other than, pristine.
Yeah. Ben, is there anything the city can?
Yeah,
If I could-
has Yucaipa Valley Water been brought into this discussion? I think it's really a valid question.
So if I could help address that, actually, our water quality management plan is required for every project. So a couple of the things that are required to design, that's the WQMP, it is a water quality management project. They will be required to do a percolation test. I know one of the concerns is standing water. So they go in to see how much water that property can maintain without pooling. The basin will be designed based on that percolation test. So regarding standing water, that's something that we will not allow, and that's what the basin will be designed for. When we review the WQMP, we will make sure that it accommodates that. As for oils entering into the basin system, that is also something that we do not allow as part of the WQMP. So we will make sure that there is what is called pre-treatment of any stormwater that is entering into the storm drain system. Now, the basin does assist with the pre-treatment because it does help to filter out some of those contaminants, but the ultimate goal is before the water gets to the storm drain system and essentially to the ocean, what is coming off of this site will be clean water. And that's for all developments. That's what the WQMP is for, is to make sure what is coming off of a development is clean water. And so when their civil engineers prepares that WQMP, we will review it to make sure that it's meeting those state standards.
So do you do the perk test after all the hard surface has been installed, the concrete?
No. The perk test is done before any
So
development
how can
is
that
touched.
be? How can that be determined? How effective it's going to be before, and then you put the hard surface, concrete, asphalt, and everything?
Yes. So
doesn't that affect it then?
we're looking at what we want to look at is what the dirt is capable of absorbing. So we want to look at it before development. And then when we look at post-development, we see how much
Impervious surface is going to be constructed, and I believe in this case, it was 24% landscaping, so 75% impervious surface. They look at a hydrology study, which is essentially how much rain will this area get based off of historical flows, and then they determine how much water is generated of the impervious surface. So that basin will be able to handle the amount of water that is generated off of that impermeable surface.
Okay.
And is this something that the city periodically inspects?
We do have an annual MPDS inspection program, so we go around to not only areas that have WQMPs like this, we go to restaurants to make sure they're not putting oil into the storm drain system. So there are annual inspections to make sure that our storm drain system is only getting clean water.
And then if the property owner, if the gentleman in question, if he has any concerns or he notices something that to him just doesn't look right, or there's a smell, or the mosquitoes, what's his?
So he can report it to us. You can also report it to the Regional Water Quality Control Board. They are the ones who actually oversee the stormwater permit that the city is required to implement. And they will, it could be as from fees to, if it's a totally terrible thing, it's probably jail time, depending how, egregious it is. So there are overseeing agencies, both the city of Yucaipa and the Regional Water Quality Control Board.
Well,
So one of the questions I had on that is, what's the fencing around the retention basin?
That's actually wrought iron.
Wrought iron?
Black, yeah, it's 6
Okay.
foot black wrought iron.
Good. Yeah, on a previous project, the gas station, the 76 station that's right there across from the school, the retention basin, that's one of the things we asked to add was that wall around it. But it's a very common thing for the retention and the perk off of them, and they're all sized for any particular property. So, again, I go with what the total number of trips per day versus if you took this piece and made it residential, how many, if this was a 3-story low-income housing or low-income apartment project.
Don't get me started with Lloyd on the warehouse, causes less traffic than that.
Well, I'm just telling that.
I agree with you.
Per day, and the cars parked there, and the potential for stormwater runoff is much greater, but anyway,
can have that
different
discussion.
project.
Yeah. Do you have anyone else has any questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We cannot go back and forth, you guys. I love all of you, appreciate you, but I do have a family at home, so we all do, and we can't keep going back and forth. All right, so you can, Mr. Gustafson, I appreciate everything you're saying, but come on up to the planning department later on, and they'll give you all the information, I promise you. These guys work very diligently to make sure all of this stuff is being done right, not only by you, but by everybody else around.
And I do want to note, for anyone that's in the member of the audience, this will be a project that goes to city council for approval. So if you have additional comments or thoughts, that would be the venues to present those prior to the city council meeting or at that hearing. But yes, as the vice chair mentioned, once you have provided that testimony, that is the opportunity to do so. And then that way it allows us to diligently move the project forward and be equitable for everyone's time.
Yeah, it's okay. So normally we wouldn't allow someone to submit a form to speak, but sir, you seem excited enough, and I will give you about 1 minute to say something that you were shouting out.
My name's Jonathan Yegi. I live at 12194.
John, what's your last name?
Yegi, Y-E-G-G-E. Yankee
Oh,
Echo,
Yegi.
Golf Echo. Okay, so the retention basin's 40,000 gallons. Yours 100-year flood plan showed, I believe, like 36,000 gallons. This is not a transportation business. Will it be subject to rainwater collection and testing as a transportation business normally would be? They are storing vehicles, RVs, whatnot, on the property. I work for a transportation business, so I know we have to collect it. Whenever it rains, we have to collect it every couple months. Now, this property, fine, commercial, whatever, there's plenty of places within the city of Yucaipa that are zoned regional commercial, which would be a much more appropriate fit, closer to the freeway, better access to major roads, rather than cramming it into the residential. Traditionally, in the state of California, this would have to be zoned special industrial special development. By giving them the conditional use permit, you're exceeding that requirement in the state. I understand city doesn't have that.
Appreciate it, John. Thank you so much. Good comments, very valuable. Appreciate those. All right. I don't think there's a rebuttal necessary to that, Peter. Commissioners, let's go around. Let's start with you, Richard.
Just to confirm, are you then closing the public hearing?
Yes, I'm so sorry. So the public hearing, public comment is closed at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to just say, I think it's a nice project. I noticed some of the concerns that the residents had, but yeah, as far as view, the walls are gonna be just as tall as the roof line of the buildings. And crime-wise and people walking through the property is gonna cut down tremendously. And the only question I had was what was gonna be fenced off around the retention basin, but we know that now, so yeah, that's about it.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Hicks, anything else to add?
Yeah, again, I know no one likes anything built next to them. I know that's a difficult thing, but I think it's a good project where it's located. Everything has some adverse effect to some extent.
Pardon the apology. Can you make sure that your microphone is on?
I apologize. But I just, you know, it's a very low structure. The 6 o'clock hours, I think, are great. So that's about all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Wolf.
Yeah, so I kind of made you guys all know my opinion on this. I think it's a great project. I think it's a great looking project. We have several other projects in this community that are in residential areas, such as the U-Haul on 7th Street. We have no problem renting or selling those houses that are in that gated community. We also have a few other storage facilities like the Alpine Village that are near residential properties in the city as well. And we haven't had any issues with those when it comes to theft or safety issues or anything else. As far as the theft issues that got brought up, I am in law enforcement, and I think we have a much bigger issue of people going house to house at night trying to unlock cars than we do, or checking cars to see if they're unlocked, than we do of people trying to break into storage facilities. It actually just happened in Redlands, in one of my friend's neighborhoods 2 nights ago. So does crime occur in storage facilities? Yes, it does. Does it also occur in a residential neighborhood? Yes, I would venture to say at a much higher rate. So I think all the issues have been addressed tonight. I appreciate that. I appreciate the audience for your concerns. However, I am 1 and 4 in favor of this project.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lloyd.
I just have informational question for the staff. You talked about having, I've kind of gotten interested in water lately. So you talk about having fire hydrants. Will those be purple? Or will they be?
That's up to the purview of the water department. They determine if they want
Well, they
or
make
they
that-
can use recycled water. So it depends on if there's a water line adjacent to that property. They make that.
They make the determination.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
It's not going to be a sprinkler system in this? There is going to be, right? Yeah.
I
He's
believe the
nodding his
buildings
head.
there's a building or in the fire code, it specifies when those would apply. And so we would default to whatever those requirements are in the fire
Okay.
code. I believe that would be the case for this. And I think there's a
All right.
condition related to.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine that. All right, Commissioner Rexton. I'm sorry, Commissioner Brizzi.
Thank you. I appreciate Commissioner Wolf's comments because he speaks with authority. And I appreciate that this is not a any more of a criminal target than any other uses. I've looked at it as kind of a benign use. It's, unlikely to cause a lot of noise and all the other things that you worry about when they are plopped in the middle or near a residential community. Also, in the past few meetings, we've discussed at length general plan amendments, and I think there's some obligation on our part to be consistent in the way that we look at them, or at least explain the reason why we may have opposed one and not opposed another. And I don't oppose this one, and I think it's largely because of the color on the general plan amendment map that's showing right now. We've got a site that's primarily commercial now and it's right on the edge. It's in this transitional area, and it's located on or very close to the primary the commercial zoned highway that runs right through the middle of Yucaipa. So looking at that, I don't have a problem being in favor of the project. I also appreciate the applicants' concern for the community and changing hours and those kinds of things to make sure that this does not become a problem. So, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you. All right, so having heard all of the speakers, and again, I echo every commissioner here, and thanking you for first being here and participating in this process. I wish you guys were here about a month ago when we had triple your number of residents who opposed 150 units of apartments going in their neighborhood. And then we actually denied a 250 or 300 unit apartment project. That was a beautiful project, but we decided that that was not the right fit in our community, at least not there. And Mrs. Parker, I feel mostly your pain being right there next to the property. I have 3 kids in the high school. I'm in that traffic every day. Half an hour drop off, half an hour pickup. So I know we have traffic issues. But after reviewing so many projects and considering this could be zoned for an apartment complex, which would bring a lot more traffic, a lot more crime potentially, a lot more safety issues than it would as a storage unit for a business that is making a significant investment. This is not cheap to build, it is not cheap to operate, and if they did it in a poor manner, they wouldn't be making money. They're in the business of making money. So I urge the company to be a good neighbor. I don't know if you'll get discounts, Mrs. Parker, if you needed to store something, but they seem like they want to work and cooperate with our community, and you, better than anyone else, would be the closest neighbor to them. And I hope that we can all bring that balance of things that we need in our community. As we heard, some of the audience members here desperately need these services. So we're trying to balance all of your interests with consideration for safety. Obviously, that's number one thing, with consideration for traffic, noise, and dust, and all of that the applicant has assured they will do everything they can to mitigate. The views, some of the considerations for views, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, unfortunately, we cannot, and you don't have the right to maintain your beautiful views in the beautiful city of Yucaipa. So the good news about that is we're working very hard to maintain a lot of open space. So if you don't have a view from your home, you're more than welcome to go on any of the beautiful trails and see all the scenery and do it that way. With that being said, at this point, I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion. I will make a motion that we support the approval of case number 21-202 GPA CUP ARC, a minor general plan amendment to change the land use designation of a split zone parcel, along with recommendations A through G, which is to be sent to city council.
That's a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. With a first and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Again, thank you so much for participating in this process. With that, I would take a 10-minute recess so we can call our 5-minute? All right, 5-minute recess, and we'll call our long-awaited chairman. So we'll be in a 5-minute recess.
Need a water? You want a water? Huh? Yeah, I got some here. Somebody else?
Sure.
We'll just stick it in there. If we painted you orange. And you can scare people as they go to look at. Yeah. You got that. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, if we can get back on track here. Oh, wow. We weren't on track. I'll let Chris handle it. Okay. Oh, man. I was asleep.
With the lights out and everything.
I couldn't find a pizza nowhere. Okay, let's move on to, I guess, case number 22-049, a special use permit.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman Algauer. The applicant Tina Eshelman has submitted case number 22-049, which is a special use permit for the architectural review of a 600 square foot, 10.5 foot tall detached metal garage located on her single family residential property. The site is 0.75 acres and is zoned RS 20M, single residential, 20,000 square foot minimum lot size. So well over the minimum threshold there, and is surrounded by other single family residential land uses. The garage will provide extra storage space for the applicant and will be located behind an existing detached 500 square foot garage. The site is also improved with a 2,375 square foot one-story residence. And the site plan before you on the screen indicates where the garage will be located with a red star and where the existing structures are in a yellowish green star. The garage fits within all RS setbacks and is proposed 45 feet behind the existing detached garage, over 180 feet from the front property line, and ingress and egress will be provided via an existing 16-foot driveway, and the structure will not be visible from the road. The elevations are before you on the screen and reflect a pitched roof that is 10.5 feet tall. The garage will have one 16-foot wide roll-up door on the front elevation, an access door and a window on the side elevation, and the siding of the structure will be painted in a color charcoal gray with polar white trim and an ash gray roof to match the existing single-family residence. And again, as mentioned, we'll have a smaller footprint than the home on the property. Here's a photo of the existing home. So as you can see, very similar color selections and compatible with the existing color choice of the SFR. Here's another photo. Project notices were sent to adjacent property owners and no responses were received. And so it's staff's recommendation that the project is approved with recommendations A through D on the screen. If you have any questions, let me know.
That's it?
Yep.
You're done? Wow. With that, anybody who have any questions for staff at this time? No questions? Did the applicant wish to step forth and plead your case and give us your name and address?
My name is Tina Eschman. I live at 12862 Custard Street, and I've submitted this back in March, and I'm still waiting for it to be approved.
Okay.
Everyone around me has metal buildings. The man across the streets, the man on the side of me has metal structure buildings for storage.
You got to keep up with the Custard Street.
I do.
Okay.
And I was just wondering when it was going to be approved so I could get started. My metal building went up in price while I'm waiting for the approval.
Maybe tonight.
This might be a lucky night. Okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
With that, we'll close the public hearing. There are no comments, I take it?
No public comments.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing and move to the commissioners. Commissioners,
I'd like to make a motion.
we got a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve item number 3, which is case number 22-049 for a special use permit, architectural review of, with the recommendations A through D.
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Tony Hicks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, 7-0.
There you
Thank
go. You can start as soon as we're done on our part, so.
Get your
whenever-
hammer and nails.
There you go. You might want to wait until the prices come down again, it looks like.
You don't have your permits ready on Monday.
Okay, with that, let's move on to case number 22-050,
dash 09.
And you can leave. I don't think anything will happen tonight. You don't have, unless you want to hang out with us. All right. Thank you so much.
Christian's waiting to go here. Okay, with that, we'll do case number 22-099, and I'll let Christian do that.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman Algauer. Tonight, I bring before you guys item number 4, case number 22-009, a special use permit for the architectural review of a 1,677 square foot and 11.3 foot tall detached equestrian barn with metal paneling and roofing located on a single residential property at 35826 Panorama Drive. The site is a 3.82 acre parcel located within our RS20M, or single residential 20,000 square foot minimum lot size zoning district, and it is surrounded by other single family residences to the south and west, and vacant land to the north and east. The proposed structure will provide the applicant with space for their horses, or proposed horses, and horse care. The site plan is currently improved with roughly 4,510 square foot, one-story residence with attached garage. The proposed equestrian structure is 1,677 square feet. It fits within all RS setbacks and is proposed to be approximately 112 feet from the front or west property line, and is further obscured by an existing 6-foot fence with ingress and egress provided along an existing 18-foot road. The elevations include an 11.3 foot tall gabled roof with 4 horse stalls and added rooms for horse equipment and feed. The siding of the structure consists of vertical ribbed steel panels mixed with horizontal wood along the base. The structure will be ordered to match the existing structure. So this is actually just an example. 4-stall shed row from Castlebrook Barns. So this is the existing site. As I said, there is an existing 6-foot fence along the front property line. It's actually set back outside of the setback, so that's why the 6 feet is permitted. And this is a picture of the home. Project notices were sent to all property owners and no responses were received, so it is staff's recommendation today that you approve measures A through D. If you guys have any questions, the applicant is here, and I'd also be happy to answer any that you have.
Okay, anyone have any questions for staff? I have questions. So when he's putting a turnaround around a hammerhead, whatever, and so he doesn't need fire extinguisher, a fire hydrant, am I right? Is that the code?
So they actually were pretty lucky. There is an existing fire hydrant right here. So it's like a good location for them not to have to do those sprinkler requirements.
Okay, and then the hammerhead is the fire department requires that too then?
So the hammerhead's not required because they're not extending their drive at all. They're just utilizing their existing drive for access, and it's within 150 feet of a paved surface.
Okay, just curious.
It's the home of the next secretariat. Let's do it out of Yucaipa.
Okay, I'm okay. Anybody have any motions? Or?
I have a motion. I'm excited. Let's do this.
You're on a roll tonight.
I love it. These are good projects. Unless someone has a question.
The applicant, if they want.
Did you want, I'm sorry.
There you go. So
got a motion from the audience?
And then no public comments from members.
So there's no public comments, so we'll close the public hearing and we'll move to Chris, who's dying to make a motion.
All right, I make a motion that we approve agenda item number 4, which is case number 22-099 for a special use permit, architectural review, and with the recommendations A through D.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 7-0. Okay, Ben, I got a question for you.
Sure.
After the last meeting, we approved the vinyl fencing for that contractor. And I had a couple comments made to me that the city doesn't particularly care for, want vinyl fencing. Is there something that, out there that we're not aware of?
So there are no standards that the city has against or for vinyl fencing, no objective standards in place. So that's all we have. It was more of a element that they had included, block wall as part of the architectural review, and we're changing that. And so that's what the reason for that thing, for that project to combat, but we don't have any standards against vinyl fencing.
So vinyl fencing is acceptable between property lines?
Yes,
between
that is correct.
properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
But on the anything that faces a street, we have been
Yeah, and as part of this,
block walls.
the subdivision design standards as a standard condition is if it's a kind of corner lot, then that fencing along the street is block wall. But for instance, I just put in vinyl fencing between my property lines at my house because it's gonna last a lot longer than the wood fence that was there, so.
You got a permit, right?
No permits were required.
Well, you heard it from Ben himself, folks. All right, thank you, Ben.
Ben,
All
I-
right.
I-
With that,
Well,
when's
hold
our
on.
next meeting?
I got one thing I want to say. That girl, Tina Eschmlin, that left here, she was clearly very, very confused as to the process. If one of you guys can reach out to her through email, phone, text, I don't think she is aware that she needs to come back in or what the next steps are. So,
What are the next steps after we approve something?
May I speak?
Christian goes out and
So
swings a
Ms. Eshelman had a applicant, I had a representative assist her with the submittal of the project. So I think this may be a reflection of some miscommunication between representative and then property owner and then people coming in, touching base and, hearing things through a telephone reaction sometimes. And so I have had multiple conversations with her at the counter, explaining the procedures and process that this approval is for the architectural style of the structure being a metal building, and there is still a requirement for a building permit to be submitted.
but she probably hired a contractor. It didn't go well.
Yeah,
And she just seemed, she was waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
What
we
do I
told
do
her
now?
it's okay to leave, and she got up and left, and she's like, oh.
So
okay,
I certainly
like,
will reach out to her as well.
asking for.
So how long after we approve something can she
There,
get going?
as I think in some other instances have been discussed before, there's nothing holding back an applicant from pursuing a building and safety submittal process as long as they submit something called a hold harmless letter, making it them honoring the fact that they still need your planning commission blessing prior to us being able to approve that building permit. So that can expedite a process, and I have explained that to Mrs. Eshelman and her representative in person before and over the phone. So I think it's just something that we're working to make easier to digest for the public, as submittal processes through a city, not just in Yucaipa, everywhere, can sometimes be overwhelming if you're not in it day to day. So that is definitely something that is on our radar. And
I know all about the process being weird, and I can read, and I know. Anyway, don't get me started.
So,
And so I do want to say in her case, so yeah, she can submit the structural plans for the actual building permit and construction of that as soon as she can. And really the only time limit that applies now is there is a 10-day appeal period window. So essentially, once the plans have been reviewed and everyone's kind of signed off that they are compliant with code, she'd be pulling building permits by October 17th.
Oh, nice.
I just want to make sure she knows that, because I don't think she knows that she can come back in tomorrow, start that process. I think she was waiting for that to happen now.
so she goes to building and safety next.
Yeah, and I think part of the challenge that does happen with these structures is you do get a lot of contractors that build these kind of metal structures, and most of them usually say you don't need a building permit at all. They build it, then the plans, they don't have them, and so when it's like a code enforcement case, I'm trying to reconcile that. Sometimes the manufacturers get bought out by other companies, and so it can be kind of a thing. And so sometimes the contractors that do this stuff kind of fly in by night and
Right, and please don't think, this has nothing to do with you guys in the process.
Well,
They were
yeah.
just asking about the process.
Yeah.
My concern is just making sure she left here confused. I just want to make sure that we reach out to her.
And we know how contractors build without permits. That's
Not that you
normal.
guys have done anything wrong.
Yeah,
So-
well, about doing something wrong, I want to put on record, man. I came in today to the planning counter, and you guys are doing an awesome job. I did not expect, like 20 people were sitting there, and you guys were hammering them, and you guys were into it. So I commend you for the good job you guys do. Some of us, as savvy as we are, as educated as someone could be, we really don't deal with this stuff on day to day, and you guys doing a great job making sure that everyone is on board with that.
Yeah, we do plan to, we've been updating a lot of stuff on the city's website for kind of how-tos. We're going to be working to develop a video on kind of the building permit process as well, and then create additional kind of handouts. So that is on our to-do list as well, to kind of
Nice.
make it a little bit more transparent, especially for those not in the know. But it does take some time to design all that stuff, but.
And for the record as well too, in that regard, there is a frequently asked questions page that has been updated on the planning specific webpage. And so if anyone has questions, you can refer them to that. And we did try to take some of those FAQs and implement there with code sections, and there's an ADU brochure, other helpful information. So it is accessible in there. And now that you may know about it, that could.
Thank you, Madeline. We're so glad to have you, Madeline, really.
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
What? He's sick and tired of the nice comments.
Well, in that case, we need to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, point of personal privilege. I don't know that we will all be together again with coming into the year, end of the year and elections and everything else. I'd like to get it's been such an enjoyable group. Be nice to have a memento by getting together and have a picture. Would that be all right?
Today, I don't have my makeup on.
I think we do that, and I do want to give some announcements. I do believe Kim Everts from the city clerk's office has forwarded, as you guys know, every election season, all the seats become vacant, and so you do have to reapply for these positions. I believe we received 2 of the commissioners have resubmitted, so those that are interested in continuing to serve in this role, I encourage you guys to apply. Certainly have to Commissioner Brazier's comments, enjoyed working with all you guys, and so if you want to keep seeing our lovely faces on Wednesday nights, feel free to.
So everybody's aware they have to reapply.
Everyone has to reapply, yes.
And we are not meeting on the 19th?
I believe not on the 19th, but we'll have one in November.
Oh, nice. All right. So yeah, that is our last one. All right.
And I will not be reapplying.
Can we have a moment of silence?
Oh, we do.
Prayer?
Anyone else not applying to be here?
I am.
JR? Are you coming back? Yeah. Oh, man. All right, then I'm definitely not applying again.
Lloyd, Chris.
Either one of staff during this. I propose we do it up here, so we don't have to look at your ugly legs.
There you go. Tell me about it. All right.
Why disagree with that?
I'm willing to offer my camera if anyone wants to take it. Ben, do you mind? Please?
There's 2 at large.
Yeah. But Barbara's one. We get towards the middle. I don't know who the other is. Right, there's a thing right there. Well, but
something like this.
Let's get up close, guys.
Here
Come
we
on.
go, here we
Act
go.
like we like each other.
Look like a soccer team?